Hey guys, I'm a Hellhound, and as you probably already know, I've been on an Iron Maiden kick lately, and I figured I'd make a video about them. I'd previously reviewed their second album, Killers, but haven't tackled one from the Dickinson era yet. I've talked about most of their discography plenty throughout all my videos, but I think a Dickinson-fronted album definitely deserves its own episode. So, as for which album we're going to be looking at today, well, I chose Fear the Dark. Quite possibly one of those underrated and overlooked albums in metal history. Fear of the Dark. Oh, yeah. Released in 1992, this was Maiden's second effort with guitarist Yannick Gears, who replaced Adrian Smith after Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, and their last with Dickinson before he would quit the band and be replaced by Blaze Bayley. Now, both Smith and Dickinson would return, of course, thank goodness. Then, of course, Iron Maiden eventually had three guitarists, as they didn't want to kick Yannick out just because Smith returned, so they had both of them play along with Dave Murray. They rejoined in the early 2000s. But anyway, Fear of the Dark is often considered by many to be Maiden's worst album, and shockingly so. I'll never understand the hate that these songs get. And honestly, I think all the bashers should get eardrum implants. What are they listening to? Do we hear the same album? I'm not saying it's their best album, or even in their top 5 for that matter. However, this is probably my 8th favorite release after their first 7, which of course were like a string of consecutive greatness that, never let up. Their first 7 albums are just gym after gym after gym after gym, But, I think this was kind of more of a hidden gem, a diamond in the rough. And I'm not really sure why. I may be out of line when I say that Number the Beast is overrated. And just by a tad, it's still a great album. I still love it. It's definitely still, amazing. I just think it's not quite as good as everybody says. I'm kind of my least favorite of the first 7, honestly. I just think that the debut, Killers, Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere in Time, Seventh Son, are a little superior, just by a hair, though. So don't start coming after me with pitchforks and torches. I don't need to be mobbed because of my opinion, but, even despite, how unpopular it is. I think Number of Beasts is a little overrated. But I certainly think I, could be wrong there, but I think I really have a case when I say this album is undeserving of all the crap that it gets. Really? Worse than the 2 Blaze Bayley-fronted albums? Worse than Dance of Death, which is by far the most pretentious and downright god-awful recording to ever come from the band. Hell, just look at the ugly CGI-ridden artwork that isn't even worthy of a PS1 game. It's actually a good indicator of what you're in for when you spin that terrible record. God, I think it's got, heads, defying the laws of physics, things that are in the foreground but look like they're part of the background, heads bending backward, limbs, arms and legs doing what they can't. Ugh. Just hideous, and the music contained within isn't much better. I don't even own that piece of shit. I can't believe that's the best they come up with after the excellent Brave New World. But as I said, every band has, has their bad moments, and Dance of Death. Ugh. But I don't think this is one of them. I think this is actually a pretty damn good record. But anyway, moving on. Let's look at the songs. The album starts out decently enough with Be Quick or Be Dead, a fast-paced and hectic opener with a little bit hints of thrash metal. I think it's a pretty good way to start an album, but it's not really one of the better tracks per se. From Here to Eternity and Afraid to Shoot Strangers. Sorry. They keep up a decent pace, and but kind of seem to be a testament of maybe Maiden's habit of repeating the chorus a tad too much. Maybe not as much as a lot of the songs in Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, though. But the latter of the two has some really beautiful and a lot of guitar work. However, definitely. No bad songs yet. Fear is the Key is where it gets really good, though. That's the first song I heard on this album, and I was instantly hooked as soon as I heard that haunting and otherworldly opening riff. It sounds like old school Deep Purple, but like heavier and like, more musically intricate. Yeah, and add to that a catchy chorus, some great lyrics, most likely written by Steve Harris, who's usually the creative force of the band, and some excellent vocal acrobatics from Mr. Dickinson. They're pretty apparent throughout the album, actually, not just in this one song. He had a slight rasp and grittiness in his voice in the 90s album, starting with the previous No Prayer for the Dying. And you have an excellent track. Childhood's End, getting tongue-tied already, is pretty great too, with some stellar guitar work by Dave Murray and Yannick Gears. Their dual leads being nothing short of amazing. Wasting Love is a kind of mellow power ballad. Features even more melodic and soothing fretwork, and contains some of the most creative and intricate guitar solos I've ever heard. Some of the most. I mean, Maiden as a whole. Sorry, I got really messed up. I'm sorry. Iron Maiden as a whole has some of the most creative and intricate guitar solos in all of metal. Wasting Love, just has really heartfelt instrumentation as well. But I meant Maiden as a whole when I said that. God. But yeah. Yannick Gears really holds his own, and was a more than competent replacement for Adrian Smith. His solos are breathtaking, and definitely one of the highlights of the album. Oh yeah, yeah, there he is right there. Definitely a great addition to the Maiden family. I'm really glad that he joined the band. Next we have The Fugitive, which might actually be my least favorite album on the track. It's basically just filler. Now the next three tracks are what really make the CD for me. A trinity of Maiden wonder that I can never get tired of. And I've heard people say that these are the worst songs the band has ever done too, and that they should have been cut from the album. Opinion really is a powerful thing. It's all subjective. It's all relative. That's one of the great things about metal. We all have our different points of view. I find this whole recording to be sickeningly underrated myself. The elitists over on the Metal Archives, which is one of my favorite websites considering, have this album rated lower than the X Factor. Just let that sink in. Come on now. I do love that site though, despite the aforementioned elitist attitude of most of its moderators and users. But anyway, back to those three songs. Chains of Misery features some great Dickinson moments, which are prevalent throughout the album, of course, and definitely shine here as well. Has kind of an 80s feel to it. It's so catchy, but also quite compelling. You could say the lyrics are a bit cheesy, but that damn chorus never fails to give me chills. The Apparition, yes, I said it, is a fantastic track. That's right, The Apparition. You heard me right. The album, the song that always gets all kinds of crap. And I don't know why. I didn't like it because it's too different. I'm too narrow-minded. That's why I like it, you elitist douchebags. Sorry, I may have got out of line there, but seriously though, that's what I like about it. I like it because it's different. There's no galloping guitar or vocals, which, let's face it, got kind of old by somewhere in time. There's no chorus repeats over and over. In fact, there's not even a chorus at all. The song just has a lot of voice in it and definitely a lot of attitude. Also contains one of my favorite solos as well. One of my favorite Maiden solos. The little breakdown riff in the middle. It's just freaking awesome, But, to each their own. I guess most people didn't like it, but, well, I respect your opinion. If you hate this album, I won't hold it against you, but, I like it. But yeah, some really thought-provoking lyrics in that song, too, and they really broke out of their mold and experimented with, some different styles, and I really dig that. Judas Be My Guide, the next track, is another awesome and vastly underrated Maiden track with a badass chorus and harmonizing guitar riff with loads of emotion. It's definitely an overlooked gem. Steve Harris is my favorite bass player of all time, and his bass lines perfectly complement the tasty beats of drummer Nico McBrain. They make a phenomenal rhythm section, to say the least. Yeah, Weekend Warrior, the next track, it's more filler. You know, if you couldn't tell from the title, it's pretty weak, to say the least. So yeah, the whole album isn't perfect. You know, I'm not saying it's the best thing they've ever done. But the album does close with the title track, Fear with the Dark, which I actually remember being a pretty big hit upon release. Yeah, Fear of the Dark. It's actually definitely a Maiden anthem, and they play it live quite a bit. Yeah, the title track. It's also the last song on the album. Yeah, not bad at all. You know, so yeah, this album is not terrible by any means. It's actually pretty damn good. So don't listen to the naysayers and just pop it in. Give it a listen. Form your own opinion on it. If you don't like it, well, you know, too bad, I guess. You know, if I wasn't able to sway your opinion or anything, then, well, at least I tried. You know, I think there's some mighty fine tracks to be found here. The musicianship is here superb. Everybody plays well. There's not a bad performance on this album. It's actually their second best selling, believe it or not, or so I've read. Don't quote me on that. Sure, it's not as great as, say, Peace of Mind or Somewhere in Time, but it definitely holds its own as a worthy installment in their almost flawless discography. Check it out. Fear of the Dark. Yeah, people hate it. They say it's full of filler, but hey, your amazing, wonderful, godlike Number of the Beast has Gangland on it. So there. Yeah, I went there. No, sorry, it's a great album too. They're all great, except for Dance of Death and the two Blaze Bayley fronted albums. Which, don't get me wrong, those three have their moments as well. Maiden's always been creative, and you know, as long as Steve Harris and Dave Murray are there somewhere in the mix, there's going to be some greatness to be found. Even though sometimes you might have to look harder than some of the others. But yeah, Fear of the Dark. Iron Maiden's 9th album. Definitely pretty good. So, I recommend it. Alright guys, well, I'm Hellhound. Long live Maiden. Up the irons. And keep it metal.